Welcome back to Bilingual Beginnings. I'm Dr. Aisha Dennis, and I help parents teach their children Spanish even if they don't speak Spanish themselves. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how to learn Spanish as a family. Be sure to stick around to the end of the video for next steps on how I can help you get started learning Spanish as a family. So, there are several methods that can be used when you decide that you want to learn Spanish as a family. Now, depending on your knowledge of Spanish, will determine which approach will be best for you and your family. An extremely popular approach to learning is known as the OPAL method. One person, one language. OPOL. Now, the OPAL method takes into consideration that one parent is confidently strong in speaking Spanish. That would mean that if you are a mom and you have been exposed to Spanish either for a number of years, or you are a native speaker or a heritage speaker, meaning that you come from a family where Spanish was spoken and you learned the language as a child, you may be able to use this method. The OPAL method requires that you decide which parent is going to speak the majority language, which is the language that is spoken in the community, and the minority language, the language that you choose to introduce to your child. So for example, in my case, I was confident in my level of Spanish and decided to use the OPAL method with my children, which meant that I spoke to my children in Spanish while at home and outside of home, while my husband spoke to them in English. This allowed my children to grow up to be bilingual because they knew that when they spoke to me, they had to speak in Spanish, regardless of our location. Now, if you're not a confident Spanish speaker, this approach may not benefit you. So you may want to try the MLAH program, which is called Minority Language at Home. This allows for both parents to use the minority language, Spanish, at home and the majority language, English, in the community. This works if you are learning Spanish at the same time with your children, or if you already have a level of Spanish in which you can begin. The minority language at home approach can be used with families who are learning Spanish and teaching their children at the same time. You may be wondering, how can you learn Spanish as a family? I'm going to give you 4 things that you can do starting today and 4 expressions that you can use to associate with those 4 suggestions that I'm providing. Tip number 1, add bilingual books to your child's library. Adding bilingual books to your child's library does 2 things. It helps you learn Spanish while you in turn are teaching them Spanish. So you would be able to read in English and in Spanish to your children, and they would be able to acquire an understanding of the topic as you read to them. But you're saying, Doc, I don't understand how to pronounce the words in Spanish. Well, that's fine. Many bilingual books are found on YouTube, so you have a model to follow to help you along the process. Be sure to find novels that you can locate on YouTube, purchase those books, and that's where you can start until you learn the phonetic sounds of Spanish. Here's an expression you can use when you add bilingual books to your child's library. ¿Quieres leer un libro? ¿Quieres leer un libro? Do you want to read a book? Tip number 2, learn nursery songs in Spanish. There are so many nursery songs that you can learn with your child, which will benefit both of you as you learn Spanish together as a family. Simply go to YouTube and type in Spanish nursery songs. Find the ones that have catchy tunes and start listening to them with your children. If you click on closed caption, some of them even include the lyrics to the songs. The more you listen to the songs, the more memorable they will become, and you will begin to understand what is actually being said in the songs. I'll be sure to include a list of some of my favorite YouTube channels for children that have nursery songs in them. So here's an expression you can use with your children while you're listening to nursery songs together as a family. Sube el volumen. Sube el volumen. Turn up the volume. Tip number 3. Travel to where the minority language is spoken. This is an easy step that you can do, and it does not require leaving the United States. Now, if you have the opportunity to go to a Spanish-speaking country, by all means, book the next trip. But if you're limited on funds and you still want to have the experience of immersion, find the local Spanish community in your area. I'm pretty sure there is a community where Spanish is a dominant language within that community that will allow you to be surrounded by the sounds of the language. Travel there together as a family and use the Spanish that you know while you're in that community. Be sure to eat lunch there. Maybe go shopping there and speak to as many people as you can with the limited amount of Spanish that you know. Spanish speakers love sharing the language with non-Spanish speakers, so they'll be more than willing to help you. Here's an expression that you can use. Vamos a visitar, and fill it in with a Spanish-speaking community or country. For example, vamos a visitar Colombia. Vamos a visitar España. Vamos a visitar, and the name of the community. The final tip for this week is to watch movies together as a family in Spanish. There are so many movies to choose from which are engaging and fun family-filled movies. Find movies that you can watch together as a family. Perhaps look for movies that you've already seen together in English so that you already know the plot to the story. I'll be sure to leave a list of movies that I recommend to start with so that you can watch them together as a family. Here's an expression that you can use this week with your children. ¿Cuál película prefieres ver? ¿Cuál película prefieres ver? Which movie would you prefer to see? I hope this week has been very helpful with the expressions and the suggestions on how you can learn Spanish together as a family. If you'd like my help with helping you get started with a Spanish language plan, be sure to click the link attached to the video and schedule a call so we can develop your Spanish language family plan together. Until next week, hasta la próxima semana. Adiós.